Okay, well, we do have quorum, and out of respect for everyone's time this afternoon, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. We do have a special guest today. We have a student from Garfield. Is that correct, Mr. Brownlow?
Correct. We have 3 students from Garfield, and one has been designated to recite the Pledge of Allegiance and also the Garfield Pledge. And
Excellent.
Karen Chavez Cruz.
Okay, Karen, welcome. Thank you for being a part of our group today. Mrs. Anderson is going to display the flag on the screen, and then you may start whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Garfield Pledge. I am a Garfield grade. I treat others with respect. I am responsible. I reflect on my choices, and I am safe.
Great job, Karen. Thank you so much.
Karen, what grade are you in?
3rd.
You're in 3rd grade? Are you happy to be back in school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you back in school as much as we can. That was a great job. I'm going to ask the other board members if they would like to express their appreciation to you and if they have any questions for you. So I don't know if Graciela is here. Raymond, would you like to start?
Sure, thank you. Hi, Karen. I'm Raymond. Hey, just wanted to say great job on leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and thank you for your leadership. I just have a question for you. What are your plans after you graduate from high school? Did we lose her? Oh, there she is. Hi, Karen.
You're muted, Karen.
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
What are your plans for after high school? Still working that out or still deciding? Okay. Well, I'm sure by the time you get to high school, or maybe even just a few quarters into high school, you have great staff there, teachers, and they'll help you figure that out. So, but thank you for being with us today. Really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Reverend Davis?
He's not back on yet.
No, I see his.
Hi, Karen.
Oh, there he
Yes,
is.
I am. I'm here. I'm here. Hey, Karen, thank you for leading us in the pledge and the Garfield pledge. And I would like to know what's your favorite subject in school?
And this is for you, Karen, so feel free to answer it, okay?
Karen? What's your favorite subject, Karen? Math. That's great. Yeah, good job. I'm proud of you. And
Don, your audio is bouncing in and out. It sounds like you're still having internet problems.
In person one day, Karen. Keep up the great work and being a leader that you truly are. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Norm?
Hi, Karen. I'm Norm Walker. I'm also on the board. Thank you for joining us today. And don't worry about knowing what you're going to do after high school. When I was in 3rd grade, I didn't know what I was going to do on Saturday. So you have lots of time to think about that. Just enjoy being a student and enjoy your learning and enjoy your teachers and friends. Thanks again for joining us.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Barb, if you see Graciela bounce in, let me know, would you please? Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Brownlow, the next thing on our agenda is the land acknowledgement, and I've asked Mr. Walker to read that for us, and then I'm going to turn the time over to the Garfield staff for their school presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Norm, go ahead.
I will. Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest in the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation. The people of Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties. Today, we honor those Native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture. We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today. We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect and a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture. It also honors the truth. As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Thank you, Norm. Okay, Mr. Brownlow, the time is all yours. I just wanted to let you and your staff and your students know that we very much appreciate the opportunity to hear from Garfield, and we're looking forward to the day when we can actually be there in person again. This remote learning and remote meetings are great to a point, but that having that personal interaction is still missing. So we look forward to hearing your presentation.
President Rice,
Yes.
I just want to let you know board member Villanueva was able to log on.
Oh, great. Thank you. Welcome, Graciela.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mrs. Rice. I appreciate that. And we are spoiled, I think, in a sense that we do get to see our students face to face, and we have the privilege of being able to work with them directly again. So thanks to our school board and the leadership within this district for allowing that to happen, because our kids and our staff are very pleased to be back. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and thank our staff members who will be presenting today, as well as the students that we have here from Garfield Elementary. Mrs. Rodriguez, our assistant principal, is with us today. Emily West, our instructional facilitator. Mrs. Johnson, Michelle Johnson, our school counselor, is here. Mrs. Krista Greenwalt, our MTSS specialist, is joining us today. Third grade teacher, Brenna McCoy, Mrs. Brenna Reed is with us today. And then I think we have Mrs. Nelson here as well, joining us today, and she's our data specialist. And so other than that, our students that we have with us here today, we have Jesus Clemente joining us, and we have Karen Chavez Cruz, who's with us, and Bree Duncan. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started by, again, thanking everybody for being here today. I want to quickly add that the last time we did one of these presentations 3 years ago, we did not have the benefit of a template. And so whoever was behind putting the template together, allowing us to be able to work off of that to prepare in a concise, efficient manner, thank you, because I think that really gave us a clear direction of what you would like to hear from us today. And at any time during the presentation, feel free to interrupt us, ask questions, and so that we can elaborate more if there's anything else. So thank you very much, Ms. Anderson, for leading the display for us today. So we can go ahead and go on to the next slide. And our students are going to recite the mission statement for Garfield Elementary, starting with Jesus. So Jesus, when you're ready, you can begin to read the first part of it, and then we'll switch off when the color changes.
At Garfield Elementary, we are building respectful relationships with all stakeholders to provide relevant, creative, safe, and positive learning experiences that result in Garfield Elementary being truly responsible to all students.
Great job, Jesus. Thank you. And I think, Bree, you're up next.
No, it's Karen.
All right, Karen, go ahead and unmute and take it away. You're up next. Karen, are you able to read the next part of the mission statement? You want to go ahead and unmute, Karen? I can see you there.
Our school strives to recognize achievements while helping students reflect on their present and future goals.
Nice job. Okay, Bree, take us home.
We respond with responsible interventions when students show signs of struggle because our staff desires that all students succeed and achieve in life.
Fantastic. Great job. You guys just read the mission statement at our school board meeting. You did an amazing job. All right.
Mr. Brunlow, what grade are these students in?
Well, we'll have to let them tell you. Bree, what grade are you in and who's your teacher?
4th, Miss Valdez.
All right. Jesus, what grade level and what teacher?
I'm in 3rd grade and my teacher is Miss Zapata.
Mrs. Zapata. And how about you, Karen?
I'm in 3rd grade and my teacher is Miss Ozuna.
Great job, guys.
Okay. Well, we're not done with them yet. So, Jesus, this is our instructional leadership team. Did you want to read the names or would you like some help from me on that?
Sure.
You want to give it a shot?
Sure.
Okay, go for it, buddy.
Our instructional leadership team. Mr. Brownlow, Ms. Rodriguez, Miss West, Mrs. Greenwald, Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Gutierrez, Mrs.
Murray,
Marie, Mrs. Yepes, Mrs. Valencia, Miss Miranacci, Mrs. Maldonado, Mrs. Reed, Mrs. Nickens, Miss Meloso, Miss Sanchez.
great job, Jesus. Thank you for that. So that is an overview of our school-wide leadership team. And this team meets twice a month at least to review our school improvement plan and talk about different initiatives that we need to put into place to help our students so that we can realize our mission. So we'll move on to the next one, Ms. Anderson. Nice job, everybody. Okay, so we have 2 students. Bree and Karen are going to walk us through our strategic plan goals. And this was really fun, actually, to have them read it. And I've never heard a student read our strategic plan goals, especially an elementary student. And so it definitely gives a different perspective when you hear our kids reading this and just how powerful these goals are. So Bree, I think you're up for the first part of it, and then we'll wrap up with Karen.
Me and Karen are going to read the YSD strategic plan goals. Number 1, all students will acquire the social, emotional skills, academic curiosity, and cognitive development in pre-K and into 3rd. Literacy and numeracy necessary to prepare them for success. All students will develop habits and behaviors that elevate student voice, resilience, and personal ownership in a safe, caring, and supportive environment. 3. All students will be empowered to own their education, meet or exceed standards, be critical and creative thinkers, seek solutions, and be advocates and for racial and social justice. You're on, Karen.
All students will have the opportunity to become culturally competent, academically successful, and prepared for the global job global job market in 2 or more languages. All students will succeed, navigate the critical transitions in their schooling, and will graduate from high school prepared for college, career, and post-secondary experiences.
Garfield, great. I am so proud of you, all three of you students and your teachers, present and past. Great job. You guys did an amazing, amazing job with this. Thank you. And to our Garfield students, you are welcome to be a part of the remainder of this presentation. I would really like you to stick around so that you can hear the entirety of this. And then we're going to be talking about our school a little bit more in detail, and you'll learn something, I'm sure. And please stick around so that you can be a part all the way to the end. All right. So next up, I believe that we have Mrs. Nelson.
Yes, I'm going to go over the demographics in our school for you. American Indian and Alaskan Native, it's 0.6%. Asian, we have 0. Black African American, 0.2%. Hispanic, Latin of any race, 92.6%. Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, 0.2%. 2 or more races, 0.8%. White, 5.7%. We have in the gender category, 50.4% female and 49.6% male. In our special programs, free and reduced meals, we're 100%. Special education, we're at 13.9%. Transitional bilingual, we're at 58.6%. Migrant, we're at 14.8%. And Section 504, we're at 1%.
Thank you, Mrs. Nelson. And there's one other category that wasn't on the template, and that is amazing. And 100% of our students are amazing. So
Yep.
It's always important to note that. I think I stole that from Dr. Darling at one point. Okay, that takes us to the next slide. And Mrs. Rodriguez, our assistant principal, is going to share some information about strategic data use.
So good afternoon again, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. So thank you. So at Garfield, we definitely strive to be data driven. As you can see, we have lots of data points to help inform us of how we are doing. To keep reminding ourselves, we need to continue to be curious about the data. Some examples of some data points that we have, again, as they are identified there on the sliders: CEE data, our SBA, we have our IFAs across the district, as well as DIBELS, and also some informal classroom assessments. So this data also helps us to pose the questions to help keep us focused and always continue to strive for student growth. After completing a data analysis, we definitely take time to celebrate the positives. For example, if we have a higher number of students who maybe once were kind of in the red group or below level, and now have moved over to the next level, the yellow, the bubble, they're almost near a bench. That definitely is a celebration if we're focusing on their priority skills and the reading foundational. And we also look for those areas of growth where we can definitely meet some of the needs for our students. So once data is looked at, next steps are discussed. We do have discussions where we talk about research best practices that can help students with their learning. And we also talk about any supports that may be needed within the grade level. And maybe there is, we also start to see a need across all grade levels as well, across the board with curriculum planning and or any supporting staff. And then agreements within the grade level, for example, are implemented in classrooms in a consistent manner. And then after a determined time, we come back and revisit from the discussion that previously was agreed upon. And then a discussion again involves what worked, what didn't, and this helps us to adjust and or just to take it more at a deeper level. So with our data cycle, it's always ongoing, and it is throughout each one of our areas of focus and going back to our purpose, which is always to help achieve student growth and to increase student growth.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mrs. Rodriguez. And now we'll take a glimpse at some previous Smarter Balanced Assessment data. As you all are already aware, due to COVID, we have not experienced an SBA cycle in a while. And so we're nearing one. We'll be taking it this fall, coming up in the very near future. So this is our most recent SBA data for Garfield Elementary. And I want to point out that prior to COVID stopping school around March 13th, we were really looking forward to seeing our school, the performance of our students. It would have been the third year in a row that that at least myself had been here and working with our school to try to develop some tools to increase academic achievement. So we'll look forward to see what it looks like this year. But Mrs. Nelson, if you could be so kind to share out this data.
Yes, thank you. So we're working with our 18-19 Smarter Balanced Assessment data. Our third grade students, their proficiency rate is at 41%. Their math proficiency rate, I'm sorry, I cannot speak today, 34%. Our fourth grade students are at 34% for their SBA ELA and 46% for their math. Our fifth grade students are at 46% for their ELA and 30% for their math.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Nelson. Okay, that takes us to the WSIF, or the Washington School Improvement Framework. And this is a tool that's been in place since 2018, I believe, and it's really a shift from the state's traditional report card system and moving it into a growth model so that we can begin to look at how well students are growing across a span of 3 years to see if they are where they compare to other schools across the state. So when we look at our growth, we can see at Garfield Elementary that all of our subgroups that we are measured by are at or above the threshold. And the ID threshold is important because if you have a subgroup that falls underneath that line, then that would kick in some state supported supports that would be made available to assist a school that might be performing underneath that threshold. So at this point, we can see that Garfield Elementary is in a place that where we are continuing to grow and making some advances along these areas. The data is telling us that all students are close to the 50th percentile. So at 4.7, we're just under that 5.0, and we have some growth obviously to go, but we can see that our Hispanic our Hispanic population is at 5.2, which is our highest, and they're just above the 50th percentile compared to the other schools that are like us across the state. And then we can see our white students are performing at a 2.4. So we have some students there that are, although a very small percentage of our population, that we need to pay attention to. And our English language learners are right at 4.8. And then we have the low income piece at 4.7. And then the next one is students with disabilities. So we do look at this data throughout the year. We are paying attention to where we're at as far as our performance, our growth compared to previous years. And so we should be seeing another cycle of this coming up soon to see, obviously, after we get back into the rhythm of taking the SBA, we'll be able to see how we've done over the next 3 years. And so that's where we're at for that piece. Next up, we're going to take a look at some of our behavioral data, and I believe that Mrs. Johnson is going to walk us through that.
That's me, Mrs. Greenwald. That's okay. We're together all the time. Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys the behavioral data highlights for 19 and 20. And as you can see, our highest was our attendance. And then classroom and playground were the second highest. And then the second slide that I have, I don't know who's running the slides. There you go. Okay, so then this was 2021. And as you know, we weren't here so very much. So there's not as much that we have from, but we had a lot of attendance through the crisis. And then classroom was only at 2, classroom referrals at 2, and school grounds were at 4. So not very much last year since with COVID.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Greenwald. And the next slide, I'll take the next slide here. But before I do that, I just wanted to point out that because we've been out of the building for the most part the last couple of years, that our regular schedule being so interrupted, we knew, though, that going into this year that we would see things probably return to somewhat normal. So we've used a lot of the data from 18-19 to try to help us plan for this year's supports. And then that'll change as we move on throughout the year. This next piece, perceptual data highlights, this comes from the Center for the CEE data that we are so fortunate to have each year. We take this twice a year, and this data came to us from last year. And when we surveyed our students, staff, and families, these pieces came up as far as readiness to truly benefit. And so we can see that there are some highlights here that resonate, I think. It really points to some of the great things that are happening here within the staff at Garfield Elementary. So we can see openness to new ideas, and this is specific to the Garfield staff. You can see that 91% of the staff, when they're surveyed, say, I welcome new ideas and change. And then you can see the perception of, when I view or think of my colleagues around me, what is my perception of their openness to new ideas? And you can see that number is lower, but that's their perception of how they view their colleagues. And I'll explain why that's significant here in just a second. Willingness to work at change. So I am willing to work at changing my school for the better. 100% of our staff said that they are willing to do that. And this is data from last year. And then my colleagues are willing to work at changing the school for the better. You can see that that's 26 percentage points lower than the way staff represented themselves or presented themselves or viewed themselves. And then the next one, willingness to be held accountable. I'm willing to be held accountable for student learning. That one's 93%, and then 77% for how they perceived their colleagues. So the gap as far as the difference between how I perceive myself compared to how I perceive my colleagues, that's significant because we want to get those numbers closer together. The closer they are together, the more united and more aligned we are as a team. And a lot of that comes down to trust and knowing that I can count on my colleagues, and I believe that my colleagues are in this, pulling just as hard as I am to try to make great things happen. So we are working through these differences in those numbers and trying to help our teams develop their collaborative commonalities and working really hard to promote collaboration. I think we have, I know that we have Brenna Reed that's in this meeting presenting later on here in a second. And I think that she could probably attest to the fact that as a teacher, it's highly promoted that teachers at Garfield Elementary work well together and develop what we call collaborative, just a collaborative nature among themselves. Collective efficacy was the term that I'm reaching for something that we really promote here. It's that belief that together we can do great things. So that's just a quick glimpse at the perceptual data from the CEE data that we received last year. And welcome, Mrs. Reed.
All right. Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry. 1 second. I can turn my sound on. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So I'm going to do our school goals. I'm going to start with school year 2021-22 Smarty Goal number 1, literacy. In partnership with families, students, and staff, all subgroups in grades K through 5 at Garfield Elementary will demonstrate typical, above typical, or well above typical growth in reading composite skills as measured from the Winter Dibbles benchmark assessment to the Spring Dibbles benchmark testing using the Pathways of Progress Measurement tool by the following percentages and years: 60% by 2022, 70% by 2023, and 80% by 2023. The next goal is our Math Smarty goal. And it says, if our staff collaborates weekly, sets short-term and long-term goals, monitors progress towards the goals with staff, students, and parents, then the following progress will be realized. Garfield Elementary will increase the median student growth percentile in math by 5% for school years 2020, 2021, 2021 to 2022, 2022 to 2023, compared to the 45% average for 4th and 5th grade from the 18-19 school year. Lots of 2020s. And then the next slide. So here's our attendance goal, number 3. If our staff collaborates weekly, sets short-term and long-term goals, monitors progress towards the goals with staff, students, and parents, then the following progress will be realized. Garfield students will increase regular attendance by 5% annually for school years 2021, 2022, 2022 to 2023, and 2023 to 2024, as compared to the previous year as measured by the attendance collected each day students are in session. And then our last goal is our SEL goal, so our social emotional learning. Because our staff understands the impact a student's social emotional health has on his/her academic success in school, we will focus on implementing supports and activities that will address this need within our school. During the 2021 school year, 64.7% of Garfield students who took the CEE survey reported that they can calm themselves down when excited or upset. In addition, 68.1% of Garfield students feel that most students are respectful of others at this school. We will increase all students' sense of feeling safe, supported, and connected to their peers and to school staff members to 90% as measured by the student CEE survey by June 10th, 2021.
All right, I'm just going to interrupt really quick here too. I noticed that a couple of our dates as we're trying to finalize our student improvement goals, there's a couple of dates in there that we need to fix and work on. So, but the gist of the goals or the body of the goals, those are accurate. Okay, plan for mastery. And Mrs. West, you're up.
Awesome, thank you. So I will read off our plan for mastery. These are just a few of the things that we are doing here at Garfield. There's a lot of behind the scene things, of course, but here are literacy focus, ECRI, small group instruction, solid core instruction, progress monitoring, and use of iStation. Our math focus, daily number talks, solid core instruction, and daily freckle instruction. And our social emotional learning focus, daily SEL activities using Character Strong.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. West.
And
Can
go
I
ahead.
interrupt for just a second?
Yes.
I try to keep up with acronyms, but I'm not sure what ECRI is, ECRI.
ECRI is Enhanced Core Reading Instruction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so for this next one of our highlights here at Garfield, we do have the privilege of being one of the few schools in our district which has continued to provide some type of Spanish language instruction in the last few years. And Garfield has had the early exit program where our English language learners transition fully into English by mid-year of 2nd grade. But last year, con mucho agradecimiento, with much appreciation at Dr. Darling, Superintendent Green, school board members, and others who were involved as well, we began the planning for implementing dual language once again in our district, not only in the 3 early exit schools, but throughout our district in the next couple of years. So dual language, as you know, has been referred to as the Cadillac version of all bilingual programs, and we are very excited to be part of the first cohort to implement. Dual language is considered an additive program where the native language, Spanish in our case, is maintained while acquiring English throughout their educational career. There isn't a full transition of or going into English or taking away of the Spanish language. We are currently implementing a 90-10 model where all the core academic areas are being taught in their native language. 1 hour of their instructional day in kinder is focused on developing their BICS or their social language in English, and 30 minutes of it is in specialist, music, PE library, and the other 30 minutes is in the classroom, what we call English language development through GLAD, for example. So with instruction being in Spanish, our students are able to focus on their academics versus having to decipher what is being presented to them in another language or in English in their second language. Students participate and are fully engaged in their classroom, as there is also a value of honoring a part of them via their native language. GLAD is also being intentionally taught or implemented, I should say, to help students to make content comprehensible, and it also helps them to increase their academic vocabulary. If their Spanish native language, foundational language is strong, then this will make the transition into English smoother. Another positive aspect with the dual language and the early exit bilingual programs that we have at Garfield is to help students know they are multilingual learners. Being able to develop these bilingual, biliterate skills, especially in the dual language program, is a priceless asset. It not only helps our students, but our families and staff to look at others through a multicultural lens, where we all acknowledge our native languages, our backgrounds, and it goes back to unidos somos más fuertes. Together, we are stronger.
Okay, now we will move into our key initiatives, starting with our PBIS. And some of the things that we are implementing here at Garfield is that students will model the Garfield Pledge every day, 3 R's plus S. We heard Karen recite that to our meeting here today, so thank you to her for that. Students, when students demonstrate positive behavior, they are rewarded with a tiger buck, and those look like this. Mm-hmm. All staff have these on their lanyards this school year. Students can spend their bucks on items or experiences in their classroom store as well as the school store. And then do you want to do the last one?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
And then the last one, Garfield staff strives to achieve the 3-to-1 positive to negative ratio in interactions with students. You just were on a roll.
I'm sorry. I got into it. My bad. I'm sorry.
I'm going to take the character strong aspect of it. I made a little copy of a thing. If you click on empathy, the ability, it might take you to but it might block it. I'm hoping it will let you go to our thing. Yay. So I was going to help do a little activity with you guys. First, I'll talk a little bit about what Character Strong is. Character Strong it focuses on 10 traits, which are listed on the third slide down. Courage, kindness, respect, empathy, perseverance, responsibility, gratitude, cooperation, honesty, and creativity. If you guys would like to pick one of those, and you can just say it out loud and then click on the one that you guys choose. There'll be a little activity. Anything you want? Anybody?
Our character trait this month is honesty, so that might be a great choice for us today.
Would you guys like to look at honesty? If you click on honesty, left click on honesty, it should, or maybe right click. Maybe it's not going to work anymore. Well, it opened it up for you, so that was fun. You guys can, was there two? Oh, you can scroll down to honesty. So respect, and there's a whole bunch more to this. This is just the introduction, a little more of the collaborative little piece of like little dancing people and getting you guys moving and playing little things. So honesty is described as living truthfully in the words and actions and thoughts, in your words, actions, and thoughts. So this would be one of the activities. You choose 3 volunteers to go through a virtual obstacle course. One person will be the guide, another the doer, and the last an encourager. The guide will walk the doers through the course by trying to get them to guess the right answer that is on the screen. without using certain words. The doer will have to guess the answer while keeping their eyes closed. The encourager can use reactions type things into the chat or be thinking about something kind to say at the end of the game. So each one of these activities is going to be helping you understand more about the theme of the month. I don't know if it'll let you, but you can say, if you've seen trust walk right or trust walk left. Sight unseen trust walk. You can't say blue, green, orange, purple, or color. So you have to walk them through how to choose blue without using the color chart. So it's all different things. If you guys want to scroll through it or look through it, it's all open to you guys. If you're if you're good, you can log out. I really enjoy Character Strong. I love the way it values not only teaching our children, our students, the 10 traits, but it also gives us goals for our staff as well. So each month I'll put out a calendar for each day that people can choose. And then I will also do like a monthly challenge for our staff. It has many different options. It has compliment, forget what they're called, compliment cards. So you can have your students all kind of write down something that they say, like, when you make me smile, you make, or when you, you make me smile when you blank. And then you have the children fill in that. There's a kindness journal. It's 30 days, and each one of them has a different amount, and it says, spend 10 minutes disconnecting and in silence. Close your eyes and picture your favorite moments from this past month related to kindness. Hold each moment in gratitude. Breathe deeply and say out loud, I've done good for myself, for my friends, for my family, and for the world. Those are just some activities.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Thank you, Garfield team and our students once again for your participation in our board meeting today. And at this time, we'll open it up for any questions or comments that would like to be shared, that the board would like to share out.
Any questions from board members or comments?
I had a question on the Character Strong curriculum and activities. Are those translated already, or do you have to translate them for your English language learners?
They are translated. I have, not every activity is translated, but most of them are, and they're starting to update more and more. But each one of our posters on the wall, that's where it showed empathy. It's all in English and Spanish all over our building.
Great, thank you.
I would like to congratulate Principal Brownlow and his staff, but most of all for Karen, Bree, and Jesus for an excellent job. And I love that Character Strong, Mrs. Johnson. I think that's a great way because it also has our words of the month in it. And that's a good look at for all the staff and the students. You guys are doing an awesome job. Keep up the great work. I'm just proud of you guys. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, I do have a comment and a question. So I just want to go back to the dual language program. I know that that's one of the key initiatives. And what I picked up on is there's the early exit approach. So I'm just kind of wondering about how do you determine when a student starts the transitional process, I guess. So Do they have to reach a certain level of English proficiency, or how does that work? Because this seems to be a different approach.
Yes, so staff, team, please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that when kiddos reach mid-year of second grade, they're just fully transitioned in. So it's not, say for example, that they have to be at level in reading to go into all English mid-year of second grade. So they just, they're just kind of all placed in there, kind of mainstream to a sense, so.
Yes, that's awesome. I like that approach, because sometimes I don't know if there's an assessment to do that or one that's standardized or we all use, but oftentimes they're not assessed, or they're left in the Spanish classes, right? Or left there and they don't start that transitional process. So thank you for that. So I just wanted to congratulate the Garfield instructional leadership team as well. I really like that, that you're open to new ideas, the innovation in terms of the character words, how I forget who it was that put that together, that interactive type of a software or program. That was awesome. The willingness to change and accountability. So, I can tell that the leadership team under the also leadership of Mr. Brownlow. So congratulations, Mr. Brownlow, that despite the challenges we're facing, right, with COVID and now the second wave, the third wave, and so forth, and just all the restrictions and challenges that we're facing, that it's good to see a leadership team that's continuing forward and still setting high goals and high marks for all students, and just really having high expectations. And so I just wanted to congratulate you all and to thank you on behalf of students and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. Graciela, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. If we can go back to slide 10, can you just walk me through that slide again? I wasn't quite sure what that was measuring, the Washington School Improvement Framework. On slide 10.
Is this the right one?
No, I guess it's number 10, but it looks like it's 8.
Is it this one? Okay.
Yep.
Steve, you're muted.
Thanks. What questions can we answer for you about this particular framework?
I didn't quite understand what this slide is measuring. What is the ID threshold?
Okay,
measurement?
So the ID threshold represents the lowest 5% in the state. So anyone that's in that category, and correct me, Dr. Rodriguez, or anybody else that can make sure that I'm on the right page here, because I'm basing it off of previous learnings, and it's been a while since I've looked at the full definition of it. But the WSIF framework is really about looking at the threshold. If your school scores in any one of those areas, there's up to, I believe it's 9 categories, maybe more, including graduation rates at the high school level, that if you're below that line, then you're going to receive some additional support. We would call, I think probably under old language, it was, you fell under school improvement status. So then the state would start working with your school to try to help you remedy that and improve the scores in that particular sub area, or multiple sub areas, depending on where you land. And at this time, based on 3 years of data, it's an average. This is where Garfield Elementary landed after 3 years of looking at the data. And I want to say, if I remember right, the last year for this was 18-19, I believe. I'd have to look, but it was the 3 years up to 18-19 where these scores came out. And yeah, so it's looking at trend data. And so there's a 50th percentile mark. So essentially performance wise, if we were at a 5.0 at any of those areas, it would be you're performing at the 50th percentile. So all of the schools that are bunched into that growth model, if you were a 5.0, you would be performing at average in one of those subgroups, or for all students. If you look at the left-hand side, Garfield Elementary is at 4.7. This is about growth. So we're talking about looking at where students start and where they end after 3 years of trend data. So we're just underneath the 50th percentile when it comes to the growth of students at Garfield Elementary based on their Smarter Balance assessment.
Okay, so this is measuring growth of the Smarter Balance assessment.
Correct.
Over the last 3 years.
And also, I believe for the under what's now called WIDA, but for our English language assessment, looking at their data there as well.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a couple of, at least a few different indicators that go into the formula that then puts out these numbers.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. Various cut scores.
Sure.
Obviously, looking at over the course of time, what are those cut scores, and where does Garfield Elementary and all the other schools in the state land for this data? Okay, and so looking at each of these different subgroups and looking at the white kids in this the indicator 2.4 here, can you help walk me through? I guess one of the previous slides you talk about strategic data use, and somewhere in there I saw the plan, do, study, adjust. So is this kind of data something that you would put through the PDSA cycle? It is. And so trying to look at previous SBA data, and granted the last full year we had was 18-19, but looking at that data, but more importantly, looking at more recent data, more formative assessments, more recent formative assessment data in our building to identify where our students land. Mm-hmm. So an example of this right now in the context of today, we're looking at our DIBELS data. So our annual DIBELS data that we give 3 times a year in the fall, in the winter, and in the spring. We want to identify where do all of the students here at Garfield Elementary land as far as their reading scores compared to where they should be at their particular grade level. And then breaking that data down, looking at the different subgroups to see how are all students performing, but also how are the different subgroups performing. And in our building, we meet weekly as grade level teams. So every grade level team in this building meets once a week, and we spend one week during the month looking at progress monitoring data. That is essentially the data that drives how well our students are doing in reading. And then ultimately there's that reading benchmark assessment data that I just mentioned that's done 3 times a year. But we do spend time going through that review process. We use what's called here's what, so what, now what. So when we sit down together as a team on a weekly basis, we look at data pieces and we say, here's what the data's here's what the data is. So why do we think the data is telling us that? Why is the data the way it is? And now what are we going to do about the data that we have in front of us? And so those weekly GLT meetings are run by previously decided upon agendas. And again, there's 4 topics at least in a month, given a 4-week cycle. Okay. And we do one for reading, one for math, one for backwards planning, and then we always add another one for progress monitoring.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate you doing a little bit more of a deep dive in that so I can understand how the PDSA cycle works when we see data like this. I think it's important that we address, ensure that we're looking at all of the subgroups to make sure that all of our kids are being successful. So again, I just appreciate you walking me through that. And then I see there's a whole bunch of hands. And so I just want to say thank you so much for the presentation. It is wonderful to hear the kids participate and read along and do the I think this is the first time we've had kids participate in presenting some of the data and reading the slides. And I agree that it was very powerful to hear the kids read their strategic goals. I literally got chills hearing the words coming from their mouths as they were reading that. So thank you again to Jesus, Karen, and Bree in reading that and hanging out with us through the whole meeting too. So that's, thank you guys for doing that. So, and to the staff as well, thank you for presenting all of this data and for all of the work that you all do and teaching our kids and continuing the good fight.
Martha, just real quick, Martha, sorry to interrupt, but I think this might be a good topic for a future study session, because this framework is new to me. I don't know if I recall ever seeing that. So it would be good for me anyways, to get an overview of it, especially if it's going to be, and I'm not sure if it is, it's going to be included in the ends report. So, so just a suggestion.
Thank you, Raymond. Are there other board members who would like a little brief work study on this framework?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. If staff could take a note of that, and then we'll schedule it. Jesus has his hand up. What can we do for you, Jesus?
I just wanted to say, when can we leave?
That's up to Mr. Brownlow.
Jesus, you can be excused as soon as the school board excuses us.
So pretty quickly, okay? Karen, was that your question too?
Totally.
Totally? Okay.
Well, this is Norm Walker again. I have a question for our students, for Jesus and Karen, and I don't see our other student.
Great.
There, but earlier you talked about habits. I want to know, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you, can you name one habit you have that helps you be a better student? Or if you can't think of one for you, think about your best friend. And when you watch your best friend at school, what's one habit they have that helps them be a good student?
I don't know.
Okay, and if you don't know, that's my homework for you.
Mr. Walker.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
We will get back to you, Mr. Walker. Karen has a lot to say. Today she's holding back a little bit, but
okay.
She's got a lot of really good thoughts to share.
I'll bet she does. Yeah, you can hear my dog. She has some thoughts right now too. I think it's dinner time or something.
Dr. Rodriguez, you had your hand up?
I did. Thank you, Board President Rice. I just was going to say thank you for the question about the WISA framework, Board Member Villanueva. It's a really great question, and I think it's really important for the board to understand how we are being measured and how our schools are being measured. So there is a link in the chat that Kathy Page posted for you if you want a preview, but we will be happy to also bring you a study session and continue to follow up with some more learning about that framework. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have a question about the dual language program, and I think Dr. Rodriguez answered part of it when she shared in the chat that the dual language program will be kind of phasing out of the early exit. I don't know that I'm phrasing that correctly, but and moving more toward bilingual, biliterate, bicultural instruction. So this year it's in kinder, correct?
Correct.
And then next year it'll be K1?
Correct. It will roll up with the kids.
And so next year's instructional model will look different than what we started with this year, correct?
Correct. We'll also be adding additional elementaries. So you're going to see us cycling in more buildings until every one of our elementaries has a dual language opportunity for students. And then it does roll up because there is a lot of learning and capacity building that's necessary for staff to make it a successful program. And just to clarify, early exit is one model of bilingual instruction or teaching and learning. Dual language is a different model. And really at the heart of those is a different outcome. An early exit program really is about English acquisition and moving kids to 100% English as quickly as possible, where the goal of a dual language program is truly for students to leave us as graduates bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural. And so it's really an additive model and fits in well, not just with our district strategic plan. I mean, it's called out very clearly in our plan, but also with our equity policy. So I just wanted to clarify that for the board that those are two different models. The research really bears out as well that dual language results in better outcomes for kids in both of their languages. than an early exit model. So we are making that shift, but doing it in an intentional way to make sure that we are implementing it successfully.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Green, do you have any comments before I kick our ANSI students loose?
Boy, that's a lot of pressure because I have comments, and I feel for Jesus and Bree and Karen as well. And I'd just like to share with the rest of the cabinet that you are not excused once they are excused. So you do have to stay here for the remainder of the time. I do want to thank Steve and Alejandra and our school improvement team, the teachers. I had the opportunity to be at your school at Garfield last week and was in several classrooms. I will say a little bit of anecdotal information. Aside from having just a phenomenal environment and a great culture that was happening across the building, to hear Steve over the announcements specifically state the phrase, "I love you," was something that really took me aback. I don't know if I've ever heard that across the speaker before, so I didn't have the chance to debrief with Steve, but that was something that resonated with me as I was in a classroom and observing the kids, and then hearing that coming from the leader of the school and imagining what that meant for so many of our students. So I commend you for building such a wonderful culture, for allowing me to come in and see the students and participate. And now to have this on the heels of what I experienced last week is just icing on the cake. So thank you, Steve. Thank your team as well, across the board, your entire staff, because we know it's not just this team, it's the entire staff coming together. So thank you for your continued leadership. And thank you, Bree, Jesus, Karen, for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Green. I also want to echo my appreciation, and on behalf of the board, thank you, Principal Brownlow, for being here. Thank you to your team for being here, and to the rest of your team who couldn't be with us this afternoon. And special thanks to Karen, Jesus, and Bree for hanging out with us this afternoon and making sure that their school day extended past the normal time. Thank you all so much for a very informative presentation, and we'll let you go unless you have closing statements as well.
I just want to clarify that when I said I love you, it was not just to Dr. Green, it was to all of our students. And no, that's how we wrap up our announcements every day. We tell our students we love you guys, and we want them to know in their hearts that we are truly here for them. And part of our mission statement, as you read and saw earlier, it says making our school irresistible to our students. And that's something that we really lead with each and every day. So I am so fortunate to work with such amazing adults. There's just a tremendous amount of passion in this building. I'm glad that you felt that, Dr. Green, when you were in our building, because we want all visitors to walk in this building and say there's something different in a real positive way about this school. And we certainly want all of our kids, whether it's Karen, Bree, Jesus, or others, to feel the same way. So thanks again for this opportunity. You're all welcome to come visit us at any given time. And yeah, that's all I'll leave you with. Thank you. Uh-oh.
I have lots of raised hands on the part of our students. Karen, do you want to go first? One second. Okay. Well, we'll go on to the others, and if your mic starts working, Karen, let us know. Jesus, what would you like to say?
I don't know where he is.
Oh.
Okay, it works now.
Okay, Bree, go ahead.
I have to go. Sorry.
Okay. Well, you all are welcome to leave. Thank you all for being here today. And again, Principal Brownlow, thank you so much for for bringing your students and your staff and sharing your story with us today.
You're very welcome. It's our honor. Thank you so much.
Take care and have a great week.
Thank you for having us.
That's for sure.
Thank you. Have
Whenever
a great
someone says my
afternoon.
name, it turns out as Karen.
Hi, Karen. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Okay. All right. So that was a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, and Kathy, for the framework. I think it was very helpful, not only for the board, but also for staff who was preparing for this presentation to kind of have something to respond to and not have to throw the whole kitchen sink at us. So thank you for doing that. We're going to move on with our agenda. The next item on our agenda are items of board interest. Do any members of the board have any items that they'd like to share with the rest of the other board members?
I do, Martha.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to bring an item back to the board's attention. So back on July 12th, the board had a special meeting, and one of the things that the board decided to do was to re-examine or revise policy 1000.3.9, which is the process for advising or addressing board member violations. So the board had agreed that we would revise that, and there was 2 action steps, I think, that we said we would do. One is that the board would conduct some research and look at perhaps other districts' policies on regarding board member violations. And also we had mentioned about the possibility of staff coming up with a rubric. So I just wanted to bring that back to the board's attention and see if we can resume working on that policy. So.
Thank you, Raymond. The board might remember that at that time, I asked board members to provide examples of other policies that they were aware of or that they had researched. And I think it might be difficult for staff to develop a rubric without the policy in place, but maybe I'm wrong on that. But the offer still is out there for other board members to help me with the research for responding to this request. I don't know if we want to put a deadline on that or if we just want to put it out there and say, you know, if you've run across any policies that you think might be helpful in the revision to our existing policy, please bring that forward so that we can evaluate it and seek to include pieces, parts, or all of that particular policy in our current policy 1000.3.9. Okay. And then once we get something more to work on, then we'll ask staff to work on helping us develop a rubric. Any other input from board members on this? Okay.
So I guess I'm not clear. You gave us 2 options. One is to set that timelines, and the other one was to kind of complete it as we move along. So I'm not sure I heard
which
approach. I'd rather just get this done with, just set some timelines, okay. A month or 2 months, or whatever, but I'm just one board member. So yeah, I'd like to just get this out of the way because we started in July and mm-hmm. It's still kind of hanging there.
So do you think a month would be sufficient to do our research?
I believe so.
Okay. So let's shoot for having all of our research done and examples provided to me by the end of October. Who are we visiting in October, Barb?
Let me look that up real quickly.
So
I
by
have
the
a
last,
question because
go ahead.
hello.
Go ahead, Don.
I didn't hear because I had
Yeah,
to
your
log
audio
back
is
on.
fading in
It
and out. Go
froze
ahead.
up on me. What are we talking about? What are we talking about
Okay.
having research
We're talking.
I'm
Raymond,
asking, what are we talking about having research on?
okay.
What are we looking
So Raymond brought up that when we had our meeting in July, we talked about kind of fleshing out 1000.3.9 on board member violations. And at that time, I had asked board members to provide me with any policies that they are aware of that differ from ours or that contain pieces or parts that we could incorporate into ours. And I didn't hear anything from anybody, so that's kind of fallen off of my plate. And we'd also asked that talked about staff developing a rubric, but I think it's difficult to develop a rubric if you don't have something to work from. And that would be the policy. So Raymond asked if we could set a date by which all of our research would be done and input provided. And so when we meet next month for our school visit, we're at McClure. And if you all could have any research that you find or policies that you have found, I have done a bit of a search on the internet and I'm having not great luck finding policies to address this. So I can continue to dig. But if you know of any that you think might bring us value in our process, please forward them to me by our meeting at McClure, and then we will get the policy updated and out into first draft and ask staff to work on a rubric for us.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
That's all I need. All righty.
Any other items of board interest from members of the board? I do have one, and that's at the end of last week. Andy Gonzalez sent you a link to the Google sheet that has the proposals on it from for General Assembly, and then Barb took that over today when she got back. So she sent out another link with her as the owner, I guess, or board district coordinator. I don't know what the term is for that sheet. So a reminder to the board that we're going to be talking about this next Monday. And it would be helpful if you could take a look at that Google sheet and look at the General Assembly handbook so that you have some familiarity with what the proposals are that are coming forward. And fill out the Google sheet with either yes, no, or question for any particular proposal. And that will help me when I go to General Assembly, and we can also answer any questions that you might have on any of those proposals. So your homework for next week.
Martha, I have a question. So there's some policy or some of these positions that kind of go together. So there's like 2 or 3 that we could probably put into one. Can we make those comments as well?
You can. There is a consolidation process that the legislative committee uses that will start after General Assembly, actually.
Okay.
Because these were all submitted individually, and rather than assume that rather than the legislative committee assuming that they would accurately and adequately combine all of these issues together to the satisfaction of all parties concerned, we just submitted we forwarded on each one as it was submitted. Now, start after General Assembly ends and the process for prioritization begins, then those things will start to get folded in together. And in fact, next year we may come forward with a consolidated position for each one of those groupings.
Yeah, because I did review I went through the whole list and I was looking at them. So I'm trying to, as you know, I'm the big picture kind of trying to understand. So a lot of what I saw was support for increases for state and federal funding. And at the same time, maintaining or increasing the local levy assistance. So, I'm just having trouble understanding that, if we're increasing money from state and then, so, we just want to be good stewards of taxpayers' monies. And so it's just a comment that I'm making, this observation that I saw that we're asking for a lot more money in other areas and other funding sources. At the same time, we're not giving any breaks to our local taxpayers and instead wanting to increase the amount of money we can get from the local levies. So
yeah, we can continue that discussion next week when we review those.
Okay.
And, I know the dogs are going to go on alert here in about 2 seconds. I know that there are some that directly ask for increased funding. There are some that sort of indirectly ask for it because of what the position is asking for, and not necessarily directly specifying increased funds.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I think what you're hearing, Graciela, when Raymond is shuffling papers, that's what we're hearing. His microphone was on, so he was being his print heavy self. Any other comments from board members or statements about items of board interest?
No, it's going back to that list. I just found one interesting one is equity-based education system and developing a required equity analysis of all education bills. So I wonder how that would work out and how our legislators what they think about that, or if that's something that they would support. I'm just wondering about that. So just question. We don't have to have a full discussion, but if you have an answer, I'll take it.
Well, right now, every bill that has a fiscal impact is supposed to provide a fiscal note. And this would be something similar to that, in that there would be an equity impact note attached to the bill. I'm sure that legislators probably aren't real crazy about that idea, because that means that they would have to do a little more work on their bills as they drop them. So, but I don't know that for a fact. It's just an assumption on my part.
Yeah, that was just an interesting proposal position. So
that one's actually, I think that was first proposed last year. And it did get a little bit of traction, tiny little bit of traction in the legislative session last year, but they had understandably other things on their plates that were of significantly more important
Yeah.
than that one was. So
Yeah, and then it was interesting. One more is it seems like there might be a little politics in regards to was it the Second Amendment, maybe not, or arms or weapons, having to, not allowing weapons to be, not allowing the school districts to decide whether or not that others besides SROs, police officers can carry weapons. So that was interesting position as well. So thank you.
That one's been on there for a few years already in one form or another. Okay, anything else for board member items of board interest? I anticipate that next Monday we will have a spirited discussion.
Just one thing regarding annual conference. I know, Martha, I think you are planning to do virtual and not do in person at the annual conference in November. But I'm still registered for in person. I don't know what our other board members are doing, but the deadline to switch to virtual is October 15th. So just in case anybody needs to be aware of that, I'll make a decision. I may still go virtual, but I'll wait and see kind of what happens with COVID.
Yeah.
I would prefer in person, but
just so that board members are aware, the annual conference is they've moved to a hybrid model. The hotel is capping attendance at 800 in person. They've already reached that cap. And so everyone who signs up is now, if they wanted to be in person, they are now on a waiting list. And so those of us who were in there early and got one of those in-person slots, if we choose to go to virtual, we have to do that by October 15th. And then that would free up a slot for somebody else who wants to be in person. And it would pull that, they'd be able to get pulled from the waiting list. So I think I saw a note from that Graciela put in that said she's virtual. I want to be virtual. So Barb, you've heard that. Norm's gonna wait until probably the night of the 14th before he makes a decision. And Don, you can think about whether you want to be virtual or in person. And Raymond, I don't think you were planning on going, correct?
Correct, but now we have the option of virtual. I'd like to get registered for
virtual?
For the conference, yes.
Okay, perfect. Did you want to be included in any of the pre-conference workshops?
No.
The day before?
No.
Okay. Okay, and Barb, perhaps you could follow up with Dawn and find out.
He has already asked to be in person at this time.
Okay.
He sent me an email.
Okay. All righty. If there's nothing else, we're going to turn it over to the superintendent for his update. Dr. Green.
Thank you, Board President Rice and members of the board. We will have a quick update on our COVID-19 YSD statistics, along with our update by Jewel Brumley. And then I have a partnership share out for the board. So first, Stacy.
Thank you, Superintendent Green. Let me, oh, Barb's got it. So as you know, we're continuing to overhaul our contact tracing, and we are working in conjunction with VD Veriter and the work that they're doing with us by providing testing right now at the central office as well as other buildings. And today we have 6 COVID tracers that we are training at the PDC. They're all bilingual. and they are working and have promised us up to 24. And the idea is that we are training them, having them calibrate with each other around the process. And then one by one, as more come in, we will move them out to the buildings. Amy is going to take them out, introduce them to our nursing staff. They're going to have a place to work there in the building, and they will be receiving then all the outside information coming in to contact trace. And the nurses are going to be on site doing the contact tracing. And then the two can talk back and forth because they'll be on site to ensure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's. So we are absolutely ecstatic. It comes at no cost to the district, which is even better yet. And that partnership that we've developed with them is just proving to be outstanding. Just to let you know, we had 86 messages this morning from people wondering and having questions. By noon, they had 60% of those addressed, and we figure statistically by this afternoon, I don't have an update, but that all of today's cases or questions had been answered and recorded. So we are starting to move forward and getting them done day by day, and again, bringing more people on board. We had people over the weekend. We had a lot of activity over the weekend. We had contract tracers working over the weekend to keep up on those cases and guidance for parents. We did have two contact tracing and investigation cases going on, one at Wilson and one at Whitney. In conjunction with working with the health district, we have closed those two classrooms at each building for 14 days. There was variety. We had students sick as well as confirmed staff members. And so those two classrooms in those buildings have been closed, and they are self-contained special education classrooms. So back to confirmed cases from last week to this week: 31 students, 10 staff members, 60 plus exposed. And then again, approximately 250 with staff and students experiencing COVID-related symptoms. Each morning, buildings are getting those students that have been identified as needing to be quarantined on a list, and they are recording them for COVID-related absences, as well as then they are next connected to virtual opportunities for work that has been sent up through Dr. Rodriguez and teaching and learning. And so we're starting to systematically get everything in place, and it's rolling fairly smoothly at this point. Not perfect by any means, but much smoother. Last week, we updated the symptomatic guidelines for students, that they are automatically out with symptoms for 5 days, testing on the 5th day, and with a negative test may return to school. If we have some parents that choose not to want to test at all, those students are out to quarantine for 10 days. It better aligns with what we're doing with adults, and it keeps sick kids home, so that we'll reduce our transmission rates within the school system. So that's kind of the down and quick of it. Any questions for me?
Questions from board members?
Yes, Stacy, it looks like the numbers are trending down except for staff. Is that correct? Are you seeing that?
I don't have the trend data in front of me to say that, but staff numbers have always been less than student numbers moving forward. And part of that most certainly could be connected to vaccination, as well as the 6-foot distancing that is required of staff. Students are only 3 feet away from each other. Staff are 6 feet away from each other, as well as from students. So that could also play in there.
So from last week, there were 39 students who were tested positive for COVID. This week, they're 39. Are they the same students, or just is it different group of students?
They would be new students. This is all new data. Yeah, it's all new data.
And then staff went from 7 to 10, and then staff and students that were exposed went from 74 to sit down to 60, which is good. And also those with COVID symptoms went from 334 to today's number 250. So, okay. So we're seeing a somewhat of a decrease or a trend downwards, right?
Yes.
At least until after the fair.
Yeah, yes. Thank you very much, Martha. I didn't want to jump out there, but I'm extremely concerned about the fair and what that brings to us. So Raymond, I didn't want to get too excited.
Well, I mean, today, I mean, it's
Today,
good
yes.
for today. Yeah.
Yes.
So we can't measure anything that we don't have any data for. So
True.
who knows? Maybe they're all vaccinated that went to the fair and wore a mask and so forth, right? And maybe it doesn't increase. So
Yes, I'll think optimistically. Thank you.
yeah, that's how I do. So all right, thank you.
You betcha.
And maybe I just saw a unicorn go flying by.
There's a lot of those too.
Stacy, could you make sure that your presentation gets to Barb so that it can be uploaded into Board Docs for us?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for Stacy?
Yes, and again, I know we're a little ways out from having the complete data update and the more detailed information, both for the school board as well as posted on the website. So that is still a work in progress right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Green, do you want to go directly to Jewel?
Yes, please. Thank you, Jewel.
Thank you, Superintendent Green. We are, as a county, trending down in numbers a little. This is our daily data. We started a nice decline there, went up a little on the 27th on today, but we're trending down on daily cases. And then our rate per 100,000 has also dropped. Not a lot, but at least it's dropping. And our rate for 7 days has also, we're down under 400 now. So that's good. Hopefully that stays at least another week. Our rates per 100,000 are kind of up and down in all area codes. Or zip codes. They've changed a little, but they kind of zigzag back and forth. Our hospitalizations are trending down, so that's good. We're not at the 70s anymore. We're down we actually hit 38 today. The percent by the state, and that was updated last week. Again, the 40 to 59-year-olds are the biggest number of people that are getting COVID and being hospitalized. Our positivity rate, the state has not updated this yet, and our health department doesn't do positivity rate on their dashboard, so I don't have any current data. School cases as of last week. This is in the county, so 232 at K5, which has been the biggest for the last few weeks, because they can't get vaccinated probably. And then new students and new staff are up a little bit from the week before. So the trend data for school age, again, K5 stays at the top, 6-8 stayed even, and 9-12 came down a little last week. Our vaccination rates are creeping up as we go through this, so that's good. Our 12 and up initiating the vaccine is quite high, so hopefully that's going to transfer over as they get their second shot to fully vaccinated. And 12 and up, again, is fairly high on fully vaccinated, but hopefully it gets up closer to the 70%. Yakima County versus the state, again, updated last week. Yakima County is lagging a little compared to how the state is getting vaccinated, but we're still, again, creeping up. I'm happy to report that I was wrong in my forecast. We have less cases last week than what I predicted. So that's good. We went down below 1,000 for the week, and I had us about 1,200. So that's good, hopefully. And then the next week is my little bump for the fair. So we'll see how close that comes. Anybody have any questions?
Questions for Jewel? Jewel, the county health department does not, or maybe they do, and I don't know. Let me rephrase the question. Do they record COVID-related deaths by age group?
They do record that by age group. I look at it quite often. I don't have a graph for it. We have 0 in the 0 to 19 age group. We have 0 deaths. And in the other end of the range, 80 plus, we're at like 188. Trying to think of the other numbers. Trying
That's
to picture
okay.
the graph.
If they capture it, I'm sure it's probably somewhere on their website. I can go find it. Thank you.
I can certainly report that to you next week.
Well, if it's not affecting, I don't know how the other board members feel about it, but if it's not affecting students, and if we don't have any staff, then I don't know that there's too much value in us reporting something that we don't have any holdover. But
Well, what I understand is that some people believe that the decrease in numbers is due to the increase of deaths. And I'm not sure how they correlate that, but that's what I've been hearing in terms of the numbers. And so more people are dying, basically.
So we have more COVID deaths in September than we had in August. So there are more people dying of COVID, but they aren't 0 to 19 years old.
okay. All right. Thank you, Jewel. And thank you, Stacy. I'm glad that you guys are on top of this and making sure that that our students and staff are as safe as they can be. Stacy, your hand is raised.
Yes, President Rice, I'd like you to know we talked in our COVID response team meeting today about scheduling vaccine clinics. And so we're going to begin to schedule those in the areas that we're seeing the highest rates of positive cases. So as soon as I have those dates, I'll be sharing that information.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. Now, will they also have the booster shots, or will they only have the first and second?
I'm not sure at this time, but I
Okay.
will add all that to the information when I get it.
Okay, perfect.
You bet.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Green, you have other stuff for us?
Yeah, one more item. Certainly want to thank again our COVID response team. And Jewel, thank you so much. The effort that you continue to put forth. We know that you have a full-time job at Davis High School, and then to come back consistently and provide these numbers for us week after week is greatly appreciated. And for those who tune in early, we also get the added bonus of hearing about murder hornets across the state. So thank you for all of the knowledge that you're sharing with us. But I do truly want you to know how much you are appreciated, and you really provide an interesting and wonderful perspective for us at this crisis time. The last thing I'd like to share with members of the board is just the phenomenal news that our partnerships continue to grow. We had, as you know, last year engaged in a partnership with the U.S. Soccer Foundation and the Washington Youth Soccer Foundation to provide a mini pitch both at Adams Elementary and Hoover Elementary. Since then, we've engaged in a partnership recently reaffirmed with the Rave Foundation, which is the foundation arm of the Seattle Sounders, the Sounders FC. And they were in town this weekend, so I spent a good 6 hours with them on Saturday. Most of that time was with Hector Mendez and his staff as well. So some representatives came from Seattle and looked at Barge Lincoln to determine where a mini pitch could go, not sponsored by the U.S. Soccer Foundation, but by the Sounders, which is a phenomenal partnership. We are the first district and first school, Barge Lincoln, on the east side of the mountains to receive this type of a partnership with the Sounders. And in meeting today with them as well, the decision was reached to put not just one, but 2 mini pitch fields in at Barge Lincoln, and it will go in the grass there behind the gym. The fields will run east to west, and a fence will go around the perimeter. And they're also, the Ray Foundation is really big on partnerships, and they are interested in engaging in landscaping so that we also have help with our runoff system and have grass walkways in between. And we're looking at an April-May start date for this. And then lastly, our partner there with the Ray Foundation is also looking at providing a mural for the back of the gym on that facility. So after the walkthrough on Sunday, we engaged in a community announcement, which actually took place in East Valley. There was a watch party, and Hector was able to speak to the crowd, and I did as well. And he had several staff members. Many parents and students did show up as well. Soccer balls, jerseys were given away, but they treated us phenomenally and announced the partnership with Eastern Washington, and had a former soccer player that was there signing autographs and speaking to the crowd as well. But we're just elated at the partnership that we have, and look to build that across all of our East Side schools, and then expand that to other elementaries across our system, and then hopefully create a mini pitch league, and also league for intramural league for our students that are not able to have something currently at those elementary schools.
Very nice. Thank you, Trevor.
Do you have any questions? Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Next item on our agenda is a review of board policies. We have 2 today. The first one is 1000.3.6 board committee principles. I have a board member who would be willing to review this policy for us.
I can, Martha. I accidentally closed board docs, so I'm getting back in there.
Okay.
I have this one in front of me. Why don't I go ahead? I'll do this one, and then Graciela can do the next one.
Okay. Thank you, Norm.
Sure. Board committee principles. The board committees, when used, will be assigned so as to reinforce the wholeness of the board's job, and so as to never interfere with delegation from board to superintendent. Board committees will be advisory in nature. The school board may accept or reject all or some of a committee's recommendations. Accordingly, board committees are to help the board do its job as defined in policy 1003.2, board job description, not to help or advise the staff. Committees ordinarily will assist the board by preparing policy alternatives and implications for board deliberation. In keeping with the board's broader focus, board committees will normally not have direct dealings with current staff operations. Board committees may not speak or act for the board, except when formally given such authority for a specific and time-limited purpose. Expectations and authority will be carefully stated in order not to conflict with authority delegated to the superintendent. Board committees cannot exercise authority over the superintendent or staff. Board committees are to avoid over-identification with organizational parts rather than the whole. Therefore, a board committee that has helped the board create policy on some topic will not be used to monitor organizational performance on that same subject. Committees will be used sparingly and ordinarily in an ad hoc capacity. Committees report to the board as a whole and not to individual board members. Composition of a committee shall be according to its stated purpose. This policy applies to any group which is formed by board action, whether or not it is called a committee, and regardless whether the group includes board members. It does not apply to committees formed under the authority of the superintendent. All requirements of the Open Meetings Act, which bind the work of the board, also bind the work of board committees.
Are there any comments from board members about this particular policy?
No.
Okay. This will go into the Survey Monkey. Barb, do you have a date by which you want this back from us?
Yes, I do. By October 8th, that Friday.
Okay. So a week from Friday.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the review of policy 1000.3.7, board committee structure.
I'll take that one, Martha. I'm
Okay.
back in board docs now, and I have to say I got
It's a very long one.
Yeah, it worked out well. Thanks for taking the long one, Norm. Board committee structure. A committee is a board committee only if its existence and charge come from the board, regardless whether board members sit on the committee. The only board committees are those which are set forth in this policy. Unless otherwise stated, a committee ceases to exist as soon as its task is complete. There are no board committees currently listed.
And that's true. Are there any board comments on this policy? Okay. That one will go into the Survey Monkey, and we'll have to have our responses back to Barb by a week from Friday, the 8th. Next, we have a couple of action items, and then we will need to move into executive session. So the first action item is approval of the Carl D. Perkins grant application and 4-year strategic plan for Yakima Valley Technical Skills Center for the 2021 to 22 school year. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Board President Rice. I believe I've got both of them today. So this one, we are seeking approval of the Carl D. Perkins grant application and 4-year strategic plan for Yakima Valley Technical Skills Center for this school year. This is something that we have to do annually for approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from board members on this agenda topic? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion that the board grant approval of the Carl D. Perkins grant application and the 4-year strategic plan for the Yakima Valley Technical Skills Center for the 2021 to 22 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dawn, seconded by Graciela. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Reverend Davis Jr.
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva.
Aye.
President Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next action item is approval of the highly capable program plan for the 2021 to 22 school year. Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Board President Rice. This is another annual requirement. So we are seeking this evening approval of the highly capable program plan for the 21-22 school year. The board's approval is part of the requirement for the grant. Happy to answer questions again.
Any questions on the highly capable program plan?
I do have a question. I don't know if Graciela had one. Oh, no, okay. So the funding formula shows that it's based on 5% of the student population. So I'm just wondering, do we have the percentage of current students that are considered highly capable at this time?
I'd be happy to get that data for you and follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question as well. Do we have a presentation scheduled to review data and outcomes of our highly capable program?
We worked, as you'll remember, at the board retreat around a 2-year schedule for board presentation. So I do know that we have a highly capable report in the cycle. And Barb could probably let you know which date that is scheduled on. We also will include some highly capable data in our ends report in the November T&L department report to you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Any other
The highly
questions?
capable program is on the schedule to be presented in May of 2023.
So a ways out. Okay. Well, we look forward to the November report, Jenny. Any other questions from board members on this one? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion that the board approves the highly capable program plan for the 2021 to 22 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Dawn. Is there any discussion?
I know the board always asks, and I'm looking forward to the data as well in terms of students of color participating in those programs and so forth. So just want to let the board know and the staff, superintendent know that that's one of the pieces of data that I know the board has always been interested in looking forward to. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Trevor.
I want to thank the board for their thoughtful questions, and to hear Director Navarro ask for disaggregated data by subgroup is a joy to my ears. So thank you for continuing to push us for that information. It's something that we're certainly excited to share, and I think it demonstrates the way that the board continues to think about each and every child in our system. So I appreciate that, and that's been an ongoing, I think, theme that has developed over the last couple of years.
Thank you, Trevor. Any other discussion?
I think just something to keep in mind in terms of future goals is I noticed the state report on national merit semifinalists for the state of Washington, and there are absolutely zero from the city of Yakima. And that is of a concern to me because it used to be that, that's a pretty highly capable kid that achieves that status. But typically we would have a few of those kids in Yakima as well. And it concerns me that we're not finding or supporting or somehow helping kids reach that plateau. And again, I know that also goes hand in hand with socioeconomic status. You can see that the big numbers of those come from Bellevue and Redmond and Interlake and Lakeside School. And those are all bastions of upper middle class kind of socioeconomic status and opportunities and all those things. But I think, that would be one measure in a sense of how well our gifted program is really working for our kids. So that's just a thought. It bothered me that there were no Davis or Eisenhower students in that group. And in past years, there often have been, so.
I'm wondering if some of that may have had to do with the year that we had.
Well, everybody had that year. So, that was statewide. So I don't think that would reflect in that data necessarily.
But I guess my point is, I don't know what those statewide numbers looked like last year compared to this year.
No, but I would think just statistically in a district this large, with this number of students we have and the number of highly capable students we have, it would seem to me that we should be finding, a few students reaching that plateau. So it just concerns me that we didn't have any do that.
I believe our equity audit is going to help us to identify some of those issues that Norm brought up in terms of access and procedure and looking at policies and so forth. So another thing we're looking forward to, right?
Yeah. They can pull that data out. Thank you.
Okay. We do have a motion on the floor. Is there other discussion? Seeing none. Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Reverend Davis Jr.
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva.
Aye.
President Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.
Aye.
Mr. Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We do have a need to go into executive session, and then we'll be returning and taking up the rest of our agenda. Dr. Green, the purpose of our executive session is for the purchase or lease of land
We have
or property?
Correct. We have two issues. It would be purchase of real estate and then also potential litigation with legal counsel. I would recommend 25 minutes.
Okay.
And I have a question. Do we have that sort of automatic shift into that like we did last time? We don't have to log out and log back in again? That Barb can just create
Yes. Yep, I'm setting that up right now. Just
Oh,
gives me like
great.
30
Thank you.
seconds.
That makes things so much easier.
It sure does.
Okay, so while Barb works on that, I need a motion to move into executive session for two purposes: for the acquisition of land or property and for potential litigation.
So moved.
Okay, I don't have the screen up, so.
Second.
Okay, moved by Norm, seconded by Dawn. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. Barb, are you at a spot where you can take the roll?
She indicated just a second.
Yes. Yes. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Reverend Davis Jr.
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva.
Aye.
President Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.
Aye.
And Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion
So-
passes 5-0.
Okay, thank
for
you.
Moving into the executive session.
Is everybody here?
Reverend Davis Jr. is the only one missing, it looks like.
And he's having internet problems. So he may be jumping in before too long. Okay,
I have him on the phone. I can just put him on speakerphone right now.
all right.
This is blocking my whole thing.
Okay.
It freezes up.
Okay. Well, they'll
We
be able to
can-
hear you.
We can hear you, Don.
All righty.
Okay, we do have some actions that we need to take care of. The first one is the consideration of a resolution for exercise of eminent domain. Bob, do you want to kick this off?
Yes, thank you, Board. Before you is a resolution that we would like you to consider for basically letting the district move forward to acquire a piece of property for a public purpose, the health services facility. The resolution talks about the ability to use eminent domain in the event that we can't negotiate a deal with the property owner. So I think maybe the best thing for me to do is read the resolution and then have you guys consider it and decide how you want to vote. This is resolution 19.20.21, resolution of the Yakima School District number 7 Board of Directors exercising the power of eminent domain. Whereas the Yakima School District number 7 has the authority to exercise the power of eminent domain pursuant to authority provided under RCW 28A.335.220 when deemed necessary by the district's Board of Directors to accomplish a public purpose. Whereas part of the district's mission and part of its public purposes, the district provides health services for the benefit of its students, their families, the community, and district staff. Whereas the Board of Directors has been provided with information detailing the district's provision of health services and the role it can serve in meeting the current urgent need for increased mental health support and what it can do to address the lack of communication between providers, families, schools, and health agencies, to address demonstrated technology limitations, and to address limited appointment availability with providers. occurring within the Yakima Valley, which is a historically underserved area. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the problems in these areas of concern and has amplified the need for the district to address them. Due to the pandemic, the underserved area has suffered to a much greater extent due to the impacts of the pandemic on its population, its health, and the corresponding demand for health services. A presentation was made to the board in June 2021. The PowerPoint presentation detailing the needs and the role of the district, and the role the district must assume in addressing these needs, including the need for the acquisition of property and structures for use as a healthcare facility, is attached to this resolution by reference and incorporated herein as if set forth in this resolution. So what we've done is attach that, or will attach the PowerPoint presentation and the information on that and incorporate it into the resolution. Whereas the district has determined that it's necessary to expand the health services it provides, and to do so, it must acquire additional facilities. And whereas following a search for suitable locations and taking into consideration the district's unique needs related to any property and structures it wishes to acquire for its health services facility needs, it is determined that the property and structure located at 329 and 331 North First Street, Yakima, Washington, identified as auditor's parcel number 191-319-22479, meets the unique requirements of the district. So now, wherefore, based on the foregoing, the Board of Directors resolves as follows. Section 1, the whereas provisions are as set forth above are adopted as the board's findings. Section 2, the project for which the district seeks to acquire the property identified above is in furtherance of its public mission and is in the public interest. Acquisition of the property furthers the public interest. Section 3, the power of eminent domain is hereby exercised with respect to the property identified above, parcel 191-319-22479. Acquisition of the property is subject to payment of just compensation. Section 4, the superintendent and his designees on behalf of the district are authorized and requested to attempt to reach an agreement with the owner as to the compensation to be paid for the acquisition. In the event that no satisfactory agreement can be reached as to the compensation to be paid, the superintendent and his designees are authorized and directed to institute condemnation proceedings in the name of the Yakima School District Number 7 in a court of competent jurisdiction for the purpose of acquiring title to possession of the above described property. The resolution takes effect immediately upon adoption. And this is adopted by roll call vote of the Yakima School District Board of Directors on September 27, 2021. Thank you. So I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution by the board.
So moved.
You just took your role, Martha.
I
asked the president to entertain a motion by the board to approve the resolution.
Reverend Davis Jr. is saying second.
Okay, so moved by Norm, seconded by Don. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I do have a few comments to make. So I do agree with the plan. I agree with everything that Mr. No had made comments on. There is a need for medical services in this underserved area. I'm totally 100% with that. There's a need for this type of service for our students and families due to the COVID pandemic and all the related issues. I understand it furthers the public's interest. And there's a great need. I agree with all those things. The building is beautiful, the price, everything. I am totally 100% agreeable. Where I am disagreeing is the use of eminent domain. And one is that when we went into looking for this property or any properties, that was not something that the board had discussed as an option. And so to now use eminent domain as an option for the benefit of the other party is just, I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm just saying that I'm not comfortable with this, and I will vote no on this proposal or this action.
The resolution. Okay. Any other discussion?
Just add that as we discussed the options on how to move forward, the seller it was a collaborative process, and it's moving forward in this manner would benefit both the seller and us as the buyer, and would be the most effective use of taxpayer funds going through this route.
Thank you, Graciela.
Well,
Any other?
yeah, so using this to save, and I didn't want to say this, but I'll have to say it, using eminent domain to save the other party from paying taxes I'm uncomfortable with that. And because two parties agree to do something doesn't necessarily make it right in my mind. So I just wanted to mention that, since Graciela had mentioned that there was a mutual agreement or with both parties involved.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Reverend Davis Jr. Ms. Villanueva.
Aye.
President Rice.
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.
No.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is approval to make an offer on real estate purchase. Bob?
Thank you again, board. So this follows the resolution on the eminent domain that discusses the district moving forward with attempting to negotiate a purchase of the property. So what we're asking for here is approval from the board to make the offer for purchase of the property at $575,000 to the property owner. And then in the event the property owner accepts the purchase and sale agreement that we offer to the property owner, that you also authorize the superintendent to sign it on behalf of the district so that we could finish the transaction. We think that this is going to work at this sales price, and based on the draft purchase and sale agreement that we've brought forward. So we're asking for approval to do that at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, we have had an opportunity to review this document. The board is requested to grant authority to the superintendent and or his designees to make an offer to purchase real estate property and the structure thereon for the public purpose set forth in Resolution 19.20.21 regarding the board's exercise of eminent domain for the amount of $575,000. And in the event the offer is accepted, request the board to grant authority to the superintendent to sign the purchase and sale agreement on behalf of the district. The property is located at 329 and 331 North First Street, Yakima, Washington 98901, and is identified as auditor's parcel number 19131922479. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Don. Is there any further discussion?
Again, I have to say that I do agree with the plan with purchasing the property, and I support the use of the property, the intent just the property itself, how it would accommodate programs, but because the eminent domain clause is in that resolution, then I would have to vote against.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Reverend Davis Jr.,
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva,
Aye.
President Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.,
No.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you very much. We've reached the end of our agenda. Trevor, do you have anything else for us?
I do not.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order from board members? Okay. Seeing none, I am adjourning this meeting. Thank you all for a great meeting, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday. Same time, same place. Take care. Have a
Good
good
night.
week.